Hi, my name is Kay Sutha. I am a business strategist and I will be your host. In this podcast, I'll be getting raw, real, and relentless whilst interviewing successful entrepreneurs from all over the world who specialize in different aspects of business. We will cover the 5 main pillars of business, which are sales, marketing, finance, operations, and leadership, but not forgetting mindset, live and digital events, plus much, much more. You will gain insights, tips and tricks, and discover jaw-dropping actionable steps that you will be able to put in place for your business right away. Guys, today's guest has been podcasting since January 2018, starting as a way to improve his listening skills. Because guess what? He had none. Since then, he's interviewed nearly 300 guests and collaborating with podcasters from around the world to share incredible everyday stories. He kicked off 2021 with a 10 to 15 minute thrice weekly podcast, Broken Bulbs, where he interviews entrepreneurs and other creative folks about their failures and what they learned from them. He is relentless creating podcasts with 3 new planned shows for 2022. But today, guys, he's here to share with us how editing can help you drive home the message you share on your podcast. Please welcome Alex Williamns, host of Broken Bulbs and My Wax Museum. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm stoked to be here. Wow, you really do get that energy going. And I love the way you delivered that. I'm just thoroughly impressed. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you here. I was on your podcast very recently, and I'm so glad, you've been able to come onto mine. And you've got so much value to give people. You have been doing podcasting for so long. And in fact, I actually was able to pick your brain. Right. And you gave me some great advice. So I knew I had to get you on here. So other people that are creating their podcast, wanting to launch, they know how to do it the right way.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
And so what I really want you to tell us is, how did you get into podcasting? What were you doing before?
Yeah. It's interesting. So I was born and raised in Calgary, Canada, beautiful place, but it's not like a media hub. We do film some stuff here. I know a lot of podcasters here now, of course, but it's not like Vancouver or Toronto is for the rest of Canada, right?
Okay.
And so I started off making simple videos just with friends like you do, right? And then eventually that led me into making videos for a buddy's restaurant. And then I had a friend who was doing podcasting, and I thought, that's interesting. And like you said in the intro, I sucked at listening. I was the worst. And so my New Year's resolution for 2018 was to become a better listener. And I saw podcasting as a great vehicle for that. So I started doing podcasting, and then the way that it became my job is I went to university and I actually did some podcasting for university classes. I had professors ask me to make these podcast simulations for their classroom. So that was really cool. And I was like, I like this. And I managed to find a few other clients. And now that's my job, primarily on the editing side, but podcasting in general. It's awesome.
Oh, wow. And you know what? There's something that you mentioned there, and it was in your bio that you wanted to improve your listening skills. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people do have trouble listening, right? We're great at talking, right, and telling people about ourselves. But when it comes to listening to the other side, it doesn't happen so well. So how did you realize or become aware that this was a skill that you lacked and that you had to improve on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it took a lot of self-awareness. I had to sit back and realize that people's eyes were glazing over when I was talking to them. And I was like, maybe I talk too much. Maybe that's part of the problem, right?
Right.
And so I decided to get into podcasting, and I would force myself. It really force myself to just sit down and just not talk for an hour and to just ask questions. I wouldn't, somebody would tell me a story. I wouldn't respond with a story of my own. I'd respond with a follow-up question, and it changed everything. And now I have this great appreciation for the stories that other people tell and other people have from their everyday life. And seriously, it's improved my life a lot, actually. Listening is great.
Oh, awesome. I love that. Did you go to like, any training or research on how to do this? Because again, people are so unaware of how to be effective listeners.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't at all. I just kind of jumped into it and said, I'm just going to spend an hour just listening. No stories
Wow.
of my own. Just sit, just ask a follow-up question, and trial and error. And now I feel pretty good about it.
Wow. Okay. That is a massive tip right there. Right. So
Mhm,
thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, I mean, your journey, you basically kind of just fell into this. You
mhm,
tried it out, you saw an opportunity, loads of people loved the results that you were getting them, and therefore it just kind of developed from there, right?
mhm. Yeah.
So so you do have the ability, right, to make magic out of editing and videos, right, and getting people's message across. Tell me
Mhm.
a little bit about that and how that all works.
Yeah, so what's really interesting when I sit down to edit, oddly enough, I way prefer editing audio than video. I don't know why. You'd think it was the opposite because you're staring at a screen and the video at least has something interesting happening. But audio has this forgiveness in it, and you can really distill the message down
Mhm.
without distorting a video. And so you can take out a sentence here, remove a sentence there, squish things together over here, and it really lets you move things around. You can take an hour-long interview and condense it into 1 minute with editing, right? You
Right.
can do that. I don't know if you want to, because there's a lot more nuance that you can get out of an hour-long conversation.
Mhm.
But really, that's the magic of it, is trying to figure out what is the guest trying to say and trying to help them get their message across through your own skills to support their message.
Right. So, as a very experienced podcaster, would you say to people that, wanting to launch the very first podcast to do audio and not video?
That is what I recommend. I know you do video, which I think is a great addition. It can make it more personal, especially if somebody is watching it.
Mhm.
But if you want to distill things down, you can definitely do audio only. It just depends on your format, really.
Right, right. Okay. All right. Now, regards to, editing video, editing audio,
Hmm.
with the way things are going in the world right now, and loads of people, are on tech, it's all digital. Do you feel that audio, you'd be able to relate to the same amount of people as you could do doing a video?
I think it really depends. I mean, with the audio, you can, like I said, distill the information down a lot. Whereas if you're looking to get a conversation out of it, which is what we're doing here,
Mhm.
it works really well with video. And so it really, like I said, depends what you're going for. Depends what's going to support your format. I have one client that I do a video edit and an audio edit. They're two separate things. The audio edit I clean up a little bit more because people are listening while they're walking. They just want the information, right?
Right.
And then on the video edit, they might be looking to, feel a bit more like they're part of the conversation. And
Right.
so there's not as much that you nitpick out of there. It just depends. It really just depends what you're going for.
Okay, so what I'm really hearing from you is that you need to know who your audience are, right?
Hmm.
Make sure that you kind of able to put in place whether you're an audio, video, both. But without knowing who your audience are, you won't be able to, I guess, get the right message out there to the right people, or you don't know how to get the message out there to the right people if you don't know your audience.
Right. And you need to know what your message is. For me on My Wax Museum, my first podcast, the whole point of the show is to encourage people to listen more intently, right? That's the whole idea of the show. And so for me, just doing it audio works really well. I just want to get these stories out there and show that people have interesting stories to share. And so the audio works well for that. Whereas, yeah, if there's an entrepreneur watching this and wants to see our faces and feel like they're engaged with the conversation, then this is a great format for that.
Perfect. Awesome. So tell me this, Alex. What qualifies you as an expert? I know you've been doing this for a while and you've dabbled into it, but have you
Mhm.
actually gone to school, college, uni to get qualified in being an expert in this?
I have not actually. This is something I have done completely on my own on the side, which has allowed me to do a lot of experimenting. Every different podcast that I start has a different tone, has something that I think, oh, that would be interesting to try. You know, I have My Wax Museum, which is more of a casual conversation with a friend, listening to their story, trying to understand where they're coming from. I have Broken Bulbs, where it's, okay, we're trying to get this lesson in this 10 to 15 minute window, get it quick, get it across, and get the message out there, right? Each of these things, each of these podcasts I've started has their own format. And that's allowed me to experiment and try different things. If somebody says, hey, can you edit something like this? I probably have a podcast episode that I can pull up and say, yeah, I can. I did this one. Listen to this. Do you like the sound of that? I can edit something like that. Or if not, I'm happy to try.
Right. So again, what I'm hearing here is life experience that's given you the expertise,
Yeah.
right? And the know-how to edit and to create a successful podcast.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
exactly right.
I guess what people's kind of, I guess, you know, they're thinking that they have to get qualified, they have to go to school, they have to go to college to be successful in video editing or audio editing. But you're telling me that's not the case. You just got to be willing to learn, put yourself out there, and just evolve as things evolve in technology, right? In podcasting world.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you gotta try. And the great thing about podcasting is the community is incredibly welcoming. You can email me, you can message me and say, hey, I'm wondering, how do I do this? Do you know what this sounds like? How does this sound? I'll give feedback. I've got tons of podcaster friends from around the world. We send each other our files before they're completed, and we would say, what do you think? What do you think? Anything I can improve here? This went a little too quick. Maybe change the music here, turn that down a little bit. Right. And we give each other encouragement. And so, yeah, the podcast community, if it is podcasting you want to do, is super welcoming. And I'm sure other creative communities as well will welcome you in and will be happy to help you develop those skills.
Awesome. And I know you do help people, because even before we started recording this episode, you even asked me, oh, do you want to record it on my side and see if the quality is better? So it comes naturally to you. And you know what? No one else has even asked me that. Like, you're the first person to suggest something like this. And I was like, okay, let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. You know, so thank you so much for that.
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, I can see you helping so many people all over the world, because this is what your passion is. You want people to be able to produce ridiculously awesome videos, right? And make sure the message is getting across. So that's awesome what you're doing. And the fact that you're global as well, and that this can be global, right? It doesn't just have to be locally. It can go as big as you want it to go.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I love about the creative world. It's everywhere, right? And with the internet, who cares where you're at? Let's talk.
Yeah, amazing. And then that way you get to build bigger relationships. You get to connect with more people, different cultures, different backgrounds, right? That's amazing. So are you able to teach a principle to the audience that they can relate to and immediately apply, whether it comes into editing, audio, videos, building their own podcast?
Yeah, I think what you really want to do is figure out what message you're getting across. When somebody leaves listening to your podcast, when they're done listening, what do you want them to say? Do you want them to say, wow, I should really listen better? Or, wow, I could really improve my editing? Or maybe, oh, I can use that in my business and change that. And then when you go into the editing booth, sit there and say, how am I going to make sure that they get this out of this podcast recording that I just did? And it can be, you know, it can be any way that you do that. There are lots of different sounds that you can achieve with that. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just to listen very carefully to, one, your audience, so you know what message they're looking for, but then two, to listen carefully to your guest and to yourself. If you're editing it yourself, listen to yourself back again and say, okay, how can I make sure that I'm getting this message across as best as possible?
Okay, amazing. Now, do you know what, Alex? You make editing sound so easy. Is it really as easy as you make it out to be?
Definitely not. No, I struggled to figure out, okay, how do I master it properly, right? So the voices are all at the right levels, so that you're listening to the host and the guest, and they sound like they're having the same conversation rather than somebody
Right.
being very, very quiet. And somebody, seems like they're shouting, right? That's a challenge. That's something that I learned over time. It's really simple if you like Google it and do, look at some videos and stuff. There are lots of places you can learn to do that.
Right.
But it took me a while to figure that out because apparently I wasn't that good with Google. But then the rest of it comes down to timing. You really have to listen to the breaks. You listen to the breath, right? Where is somebody breathing? How are they breathing? Ums and ahs, do you plan to take that out? All these considerations you really have to consider. And like I said, it goes back to listening to your audience and listening to your guests and making sure that you're giving the best for them.
So, okay, honestly now, like if I had a 30-minute video I wanted to edit, how long would it take me to edit that 30-minute video or audio?
I mean, it really depends. If it was a video like this, it wouldn't take that long, right? If it was basically just clean it up, take out some of the garbage, right? You could probably rip through that in an hour and a half, right? And get it wrapped up and done. If it was an audio and it said, okay, well, really distill it down, really break it down, that could take up to 4 hours. It just depends. And that said, the great thing is, if you're doing something consistently, you're going to get faster at it. My first episode of Broken Bulbs took me 10 hours to edit. And I edited it and I said, how does that sound? What does that sound like? Do I like it like that? Should I do more than that? And now these 10 to 15 minute episodes, I've got editing down to about an hour. And so as you do it, you'll get better with it. And again, totally depends. Are you taking out all the ums, likes, and ahs, or are you leaving those in and just kind of letting it be more conversational and just really mastering the audio? Just depends what you're looking for.
Okay, so I've got another question for you, because to me, that's too much work. I don't want to edit. I don't want to learn to edit, right? I would rather use the time to do where my skills lie. So what are your thoughts on outsourcing editing audios and videos?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I outsource other things that I'm not good at, right? I outsource a lot of the cover art that I do. I say, hey, somebody else, can you make this for me? Because I'm not good at that stuff, right? And so I think it's a great idea. Obviously, I'm biased. This is what I do for work, but it can free you up to doing what you're good at. I've been doing this for 3.5 years, right? You've been doing other things for 3.5 years that you're really good at. And so, I think it's a great idea, unless you look at it and say, you know what, this is my baby. I really want to polish this myself and figure out how to do it myself. Now, I mean, by all means, spend the time and learn the skills. I think it's fun, and you might too. You might hate it, and that's when you kick me.
Right. I mean, I can't stand any of that stuff. And when it comes to tech anyway, I'm useless, right? I'm going to put my hands up. I'm totally rubbish at any of that stuff. So I outsource all of that. So do you provide a service where if people want to start their podcast, or if they have a podcast and are sick and tired of doing their own editing, do you provide that service where you can do it for them?
Yeah. All they have to do, if they go on mecoradio.com, that's my website. You can just go into the contact form there. I mean, you could even message me on Instagram, and then we can get in touch there. Really, that's something that I do for a lot of people, even a couple clients. It's not every podcast that I edit. It's just ones that they say, this one could use some work. And then they send the file to me and say, hey, I need this by X date. And I get it done.
Awesome. I love it. So would you be able to provide us with maybe 1 or 2 success stories that you've had recently?
Yeah. So my sister, actually, this is one I was thinking about when you sent me the questions, and I was like, my sister, she's got this podcast that she does that kind of mixes explaining a little bit of history and design, as well as mixing in people's personal experiences and stories. And so that was a new sound to me. I'd never edited something like that before. And so I took her files and I kind of played around with it. And originally what she wanted to do was she wanted to place the information at the beginning and then place the story at the end. And I said, well, the story kind of meshes in with the information, right? As this person's telling the story, it kind of ties in with the themes and and kind of helps carry the information forward to the audience. And so I wound up taking that, mixing it around a little bit. I had some information here, some story over here, and some more information, and kind of chopped it together, sent it to my sister, and I said, "Whoa!" I said, "What do you think? This is a sound I think would sound good." And she's like, "Wow, I love it. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm looking for." And so I mixed in some music, added that in, and I'm very pleased with the product and the audiences as well. She gets messages regularly. She's on hiatus now from that show, but she gets messages regularly saying, "Hey, when are you coming out with more? We want more of that."
Oh, she's like the most wanted person now.
Yeah, now she is.
And you've made that happen.
Yeah, I like to think so. I like to think I had a hand in that.
Yeah, you did, most definitely. I'm sure of it. Okay, awesome. So you already mentioned that you have the website, but do you have any kind of like free support that maybe people want to dabble in and see, what else you're doing before they hire you as their editor? Is there any way people can go for additional support?
Yeah, there is actually. So, I mean, like I said, you can message me, you can contact me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always happy to sit down and have a half-hour conversation and just say, "Oh, you're looking at doing this." I give advice. I've got all these friends messaging me. They're like, "Hey, Alex, you do podcasts, right? I won't edit for free, but I will give you advice for free, right? I will sit down and talk to you and say, oh, you might want to do this." I also give free feedback. I have a group I call the Create Vine, which is me and a bunch of other creative folks, mostly podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
We sit down and give each other feedback on our work. It's a Discord server, and anybody is welcome to join that. You can post your podcast cover art. You can post your podcast website, anything you want feedback on, totally free. And
is this a community that you've created?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so graphics, audio, video, any of that stuff.
Yeah, and other podcasters will respond and give feedback on it. So you won't just be getting feedback from me, you'll be getting feedback from other podcasters as well.
I love that. I love that you're giving people the opportunity of getting feedback on, I mean, so many podcasters may be new, they're not too sure what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So that being around that community and being around, these professionals will definitely help people and making sure that they're on the right track. Right. So exactly. I love that you're doing that. That's amazing. And how long have you had this community for?
We kind of started it. I mean, the podcasters in there right now, we've known each other for a few years. We kind of started podcasting around the same time and got in touch and became friends. And then it's really just been in this past year that we said, let's make something that other people can join if they want to. And then that way we can kind of just support the community in general. Pretty small right now, but I'm hoping to see other people join on because I mean, it's free feedback, right? You post your stuff there, you give feedback, you take feedback, and it's worked pretty well so far.
I love that. And guys, just to let you know, the links, everything will be in the show notes below. So if you missed it on the audio or the video, wherever you're listening or watching this, make sure you scroll down and the links and information will be right there. Mm-hmm. Alex, it was amazing having you on here. Thank you for coming on the show. So many golden nuggets of that podcast. I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people to start their own now. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. This was awesome. I love it.
Thank you for your time and listening to Uncensored Society podcast. All resources mentioned throughout the episode will be added to the show notes and you'll be able to find them at the bottom as you scroll down. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe and leave a review in iTunes. Thank you once again.